BAYLIE, you're having Captain Crunch.
No, I'm having Lucky Charms.
Yeah. Well, Wally, it's Cap'n. It's Cap'n Crunch.
Cap'n.
C-A-P apostrophe. C-A-P apostrophe N. Cap'n Crunch.
Do you actually eat that?
I have. I've eaten pounds of it in my youth. It's kind of funny because, you know, my father would never buy junk food for us except for the cereal. And maybe cereals at the time weren't considered junk food, but like he would never buy bags of candy and stuff and donuts and, you know, but we always had like Cap'n Crunch and Cocoa Puffs. And
did he secretly eat it at night?
I don't think he did. He was pretty good with that stuff when he was younger. Now that he's older, he's like a sugar fiend. He puts like a tablespoon of sugar in his coffee and, you know.
That's not too sweet for you, BAYLIE? Lucky Charms?
Oh, it's awful. But, you know, every now and then it's just kind of a weird little treat.
Yeah. So I think I'm at the age where I can't do sweet like that anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally off-putting.
I wish.
Jerry Seinfeld said the best cereal is Raisin Bran Crunch.
Does it have little granola clusters in it or something?
Yeah, something like that. Some kind of sweet little crunchy things.
Mm-hmm. He's not my go-to for advice like that, you know. Just so you know.
Well, he knows cereal.
Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld knows cereal.
That was his shtick, though, on his show, wasn't it?
Oh, that's right. He had the boxes of cereal.
Yeah, he always had cereal.
Yeah, he's a cereal expert.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of sugar, it was really funny. We're doing this project at work, right? We do an annual report that we send out to peer schools, to the deans of peer schools, because the way that we're ranked is purely on reputation. So the more they know about you, the better, right? So we decided this year to send out sponge candy because that's a Buffalo thing. Mm-hmm. So when I went to order the sponge candy, I was talking to the woman. It's called Fowler's Chocolates. It's one of the good chocolate places around here, right? So I said, oh my God, how can you even work there? And she said, you know, I don't crave sugar, blah, blah, blah. And that led into this whole conversation about nutrition. And she totally inspired me to really cut back on my sugar, because I know, like, lately, the past few months, it's like 3 times a day I'm having sugar, probably adding like 600 or 700 calories of sugar every single day to my diet, you know. And also I'm getting migraines from chocolate, and
wow.
So I got to give it up.
What are you eating?
What am I eating in place of sugar, or what was?
Yeah, what's your sugar problem?
Wine.
I don't know what you mean. What's my sugar problem?
Well, you said you got to cut back on your sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it that you're eating during the day that?
Oh, well, like, you know, in my desk drawer, I have I usually have 3 pounds of Getsy's caramel creams, you know, and I'll have those a couple of times a day. And then I always have a dessert, and, you know, I just have too much sugar.
Yeah.
And again, like the whole chocolate thing, a couple of nights, a week or so ago, I had a lot of chocolate on 2 nights, and the next morning I woke up with a huge headache. And then I found out that chocolate is something like the #1 trigger food for migraines.
You had a chocolate hangover, kind of.
Yeah. And, you know, I feel like, and sugar causes inflammation too, right? So I feel like my joints hurt. And then this woman also told me, because she's not a scientist or anything, so maybe what she told me is completely bullshit. I don't know. But she said that cholesterol, you know, when you get a high cholesterol is just caused by inflammation. And sugar is one of the things that can cause inflammation, right? So a couple of times in the past few years, my doctor has said that my bad cholesterol is on the higher side. And I couldn't figure out, because I don't eat fried foods. I don't eat, you know, like mayo and sour cream, because my stomach can't tolerate that stuff, right? Like, I don't eat garbage like that, but I eat a ton of sugar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, sugar's in everything, too.
Right.
Yes. And I need to be a little more careful about that. Although I tend not to, you know, I tend to mostly not eat processed foods, you know, but, yeah, no, you're for sure. Like, I looked sometimes I'll take a can of soup to lunch, you know, something just quick to grab. And I looked at this one soup that I have, and it was like at least 3 grams of added sugar per serving. And I always eat the can, of course. So I'm getting 6 grams of added sugar there. So that's a bowl of cereal.
Yeah.
Lucky Charms. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel terrible when I overdose on sugar. It really hits me. It didn't used to, but now it does.
Yeah.
Alcohol, too.
Yeah.
I can't drink anything.
Oh.
Yeah.
I can't either. That happened in my late 20s.
Really?
Yeah. I remember the night that it happened. I'm sure I told this story before, so stop me if you have heard it. That, in grad school, I had a Christmas party. And at that Christmas party, I mixed some beverages, and which is a big mistake. And so I was vomiting the whole night. And the next morning I was supposed to finish grading my papers because I was a teaching assistant, finish grading my papers and get them in for their final grades. And I was so hungover, I had to call a cab to bring the grades in. And I'm sitting there grading stuff hungover. And then that was like the beginning of the end. I just couldn't do it anymore.
You don't drink at all now?
I have one drink sometimes.
Yeah.
But anything more than that the only thing I can have like more than one of is champagne or some sparkly beverage. And maybe that has to do with the carbonation or something, But other than that, like 2 drinks will kill me.
How about you, BAYLIE?
Oh, I like to have a little something. I like to have a glass of wine with my dinner,
Yeah. Well, a glass of wine, I think I can handle that. But after a glass and a half, it hits me.
Yeah. It's kind of a drag because the only thing left is weed, really.
Well, I got in trouble with weed.
Did you?
Back in my 20s, yeah. There was a couple times where I wasn't necessarily smoking a lot, but I passed out.
Oh.
I fell forward.
Wow.
Broke my glasses. And,
really?
You know what? I think I better stay away from that. Yeah, it was just not So I started to just totally back off of it. So
was it a special strain or something?
It could have been, but it was enough to just tell me, you know what? Let's just dabble here and there. Let's not get too.
It wasn't an overdose.
I mean,
per se.
I don't know. How do you overdose?
Can you overdose on? I don't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah, I guess you could.
I don't know if an overdose would it cause death?
I don't. That's another thing we need to look up.
We can just say yes.
Yeah, right. It causes death.
Everything we say is wrong.
It is true.
I mean, I think you can sit in a comatose like state, when you've smoked too much. So
well, yeah, I've been there. Well, what's kind of funny is, like I have like one of the little pens and I have edibles, right? But I still take a low dose of Zoloft for my irritable bowel syndrome, TMI. And so, I take that at night. And if I take an edible at night, I found out, and I didn't know this until I did it one night. Like when I woke up, I was like all dizzy and I was like, what the hell? And I heard that if you do edibles with, with an antidepressant that you can get, it's not a great interaction. So either I have to smoke it or I have to do it in the morning before I take my Zoloft. And I'm not averse to that.
You said on the podcast that you did a bunch of gummies or something, and you took a little and you didn't feel anything. You took a little more and you didn't feel anything, and then it hit you
for hours.
Yeah.
Right.
It was great.
I'm sure I told the story where the only 2 times in my life I tried weed, and both times I felt like I weighed 1,000 pounds. It was just completely, almost comatose. It felt awful. So then I stopped. I never did it again.
Oh, see, I like that feeling.
I know people that smoke every day. It's part of it's like brushing their teeth. It's just part of their ritual, their routine.
Yeah, it's like brushing their teeth.
Yeah.
Seriously, I like that.
Yeah. Well, drinking too.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's what they rinse with.
Right.
I know, gross.
So how about tattoos? I don't know why I made that connection, but
because you have to be drunk when you get one, or
something like that.
Sailor, yeah.
But do you have tattoos?
No.
I have one.
You have one.
I do. I have one.
Some kind of little symbolic thing.
Yeah.
When I watch my YouTube videos, every single person has tattoos. I don't know if it's a generation or 2 generations or what. I mean, that really became the thing. And I think it's tapered off a little bit, but
maybe. I don't know, though. I mean,
I've been to a couple weddings in September, and both of the couples getting married were in their late 20s. And so many of the guests and the people in the wedding party, their age, all had something here or there. And of course, everyone's wearing dresses where they're, with their straps, and so you can see everyone's tattoos, all these women. And
see, I don't think that looks that good.
I don't know. It doesn't either. Never liked it.
I mean, mine is on my back, like behind my shoulder, and, unless I have a bathing suit on, pretty much, no one's going to see it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I've noticed, though, in different places, like, I noticed this a few years ago in Montreal, not a lot of tattoos around. And then in Europe, too, not a lot of tattoos around.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's just
Yeah,
an
that's what I
American
wondered.
thing.
If it passed or...
I don't know.
Yeah.
But everybody had one for a while.
Yeah, I don't know if it's passed.
Yeah.
I mean, I still notice a lot of people with them.
Yeah, me too.
Although I haven't looked at the youth,
Well, what about Luis's friends?
Luis doesn't have any, and I don't think any of his friends did. And now I don't know, if they do or not.
He'll probably come back with a matador on his shoulder or something.
Yeah. Real Madrid logo. God.
How are things in Spain?
Oh, God.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we had a little come to Jesus talk last week because things keep happening when he's alone on the street at 3 or 4 a.m. They go out, and, they go out late anyway, right? So it's like we used to do in Buffalo because the bars were open until 4. So we used to go out at midnight all the time.
Right.
And that's what they do too, although he says it's like even 1 o'clock, whatever. So it's not unusual for them to be coming home at 3 or 4 in the morning. But the friends that he goes out with, they all go to the dorms, and he hasn't, is in this apartment. So it's in a different way, right? So the first time he was alone was the time I think I mentioned he fell asleep on a bench, he said, and someone stole his phone, right? Then the second time, he was just walking down the street with his AirPods in, and some guys were walking by, and like one of them tackled him.
Wow.
To the ground. I don't know why. I mean, and Luis, luckily his boxing came in handy because he punched the guy in the face and was like, "What are you doing? Get off me." And that was it. They left him alone. So who knows what, maybe they were like partiers in the street and they were just whatever. And then last week he texts me in the middle of his night. "Oh, the police hustled me again. They just don't like brown people here." I'm like, what are you talking about?
Oh, boy.
So apparently a couple of times when he's been on a scooter, again, in the middle of the night, right, the cops have stopped him and asked for ID. So first of all, and he's telling me that they're racist there. Now, I've heard Spanish cops you don't want to mess with. And he says that they are racist there, that they stop people who are dark, who might be from like Morocco or Saudi Arabia or whatever, right? And he says he fits that profile. But even if that's true, and maybe it is, like, first of all, I've told you a million times now, take a cab home. I will fucking pay for it. 2, if it is racist, what are you doing alone on the street on a scooter in the middle of the night? And he said, well, if I was on Gran Via, which is the main road, they wouldn't have stopped me, but I was taking shortcuts. I'm like, okay, so 4 a.m., scooter, shortcut, maybe through some alleys or maybe, none of these things sound good to me.
Right.
And I just, he was like, well, I'm really tired. I got to go. I said, yeah, go to sleep. And the next day I was like, call me as soon as you can. And I was just like, all right, maybe you're not ready to be on your own. Because if you don't get what's happening by this point, what the fuck? And, we had this very long conversation. And, he said I was overreacting and blah, 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 whatever. And I said, I just don't feel, I'm scared for you when I go to sleep. Like, what are you going to tell me next? And he also said when they asked for his ID, I said, well, what ID did you give them? I gave them my Nexus card. Well, first of all, I don't even know if the Spanish police know what a Nexus card is. That is for North America. Maybe they've seen one before. But I said, well, why didn't you give them your student ID? Well, I haven't got it yet.
What is that?
A Nexus card?
Yeah.
It's that card that lets you, like, they have special lanes going into Canada for sure. I don't know if I suspect Mexico too, because it's Canada and U.S. and Mexico. It lets you go through a special lane because, you have to go through a whole check and you have to go for an interview and you get vetted. And then it gets you pre-checked too. That's another thing.
Okay, I never heard of it.
Okay. Yeah. So, and like the best thing is like when I came back from Spain and then when we came back from Mexico once, there's this huge line at customs and you just flash them your Nexus card and you just go through. It's great. So that's the card that he gave them. And he hasn't got his student ID yet. And I was just like, okay, if I don't see proof that you have gone to get your student ID by the end of this week, I'm cutting you off. I'm going to give you X amount of money per week. until you get it.
Does he have a driver's license?
He has a permit, but I don't, like, why would they give a shit about that either, right? I mean, yes, it's an ID, but the thing is, I mean, it's Spain, so that doesn't show that he's a student there, right? It could just show that he's a tourist acting like an asshole. I mean, I don't know what he was doing,
right.
But the middle of the night on a scooter in back alleys,
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah,
I would scare
he said
the living daylights out of
and
me.
he said there were 7 cops there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, how much drinking is involved in the late night?
Well, I don't know. The thing is, what I've heard there, I know that they drink, but what I've heard there is that they don't go out to just get blasted. It's a different kind of culture, but I'm sure he's had a couple of drinks.
Yeah. Maybe it's more a weaving scooter than dark skin.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. I don't know that.
Are they going out to a club, a bar? Are they hanging outside or?
No, they go to clubs and bars. Yeah. That's the whole culture. When I was there, you could just see all these kids hanging out downtown and actually people of every age, really. It's a really social area.
Right.
And, I didn't hear any responses that I liked on our conversation. But then later on, he texted me and he said, I know I am the most illogical and defensive person in the world. And I know you're just trying to keep me safe. So, I knew he heard me because that's how he does it. He can't respond in the moment, Anyway.
Yeah, that would make me very, very, very nervous.
Yeah.
Being in a city you don't know, you haven't been for very long. And if you think they're targeting you because of your skin color, then maybe you should go home a little earlier and go on the Grand V.
Yeah, either that or take a cab.
Right.
Take a cab. I told him I would pay for it. And so apparently he has started doing that. So that's good news. And he's just got to do it all the time. I'm like, Luis, these 3 things have happened when you're alone on the street at night. How many more things have to happen when you're on the street alone at night before you learn? Now, I've told the story to a couple of people and everyone is like, it would not make me happy either. But he's 18 and he's never done this before. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like here, he had friends, but they didn't go out a ton. They weren't the kind of friends that he had here. And then they had like basically 2 years of COVID doing nothing. So he never really did any of this.
It's a classic freshman thing, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
What country, what college.
He's feeling his oats.
Yeah.
Yes. It could happen anywhere. Absolutely.
Yeah. And how's school going?
No, I can see his grades and it ain't going. So that's no surprise. I've talked to you before about,
right.
He's not a student at all. And he's taking stuff that he doesn't like. But you know what? That is totally on him. Like,
right.
He's got a scholarship. And if you don't keep up a certain grade point average, after a year, they reevaluate it. Mm-hmm. And who knows what could happen?
If he doesn't want to stay in school, find something
absolutely
that you really want to do.
Absolutely. I mean, what he really wants to do is box. That's what he really wants to do. He's got a trainer there now and he really likes this trainer. And this trainer does like some things that his other trainer didn't do much, And there's this old guy at the club where he goes now. And he said he's like 90 years old and he sits there in a folding chair. And like when Luis is on the speed bag, he'll go like, vamos.
Smoke a little cigarette, yeah.
And then Luis said that he found out that this guy used to train some, well-known Spanish boxers, So I mean, I am totally, yes, it'd be nice if he never broke his nose or got a concussion or anything, but he really loves that. And I'm glad he's sticking with it. And it's very good for him in general.
It's really good for them, to have something they really like and are successful at.
He loves it.
It's a real confidence booster.
That's what he said too. Yeah. It's like the only thing I'm good at. But it's like you're 18. You don't know what you're good at yet,
Right.
You really don't. Who did? Well, I guess there are some people who did know, but,
Yeah, I was thinking about on the news, the Korea stuff, and I thought, I'm glad Louis didn't go to Korea. You'd been freaking out.
Yeah.
Between the missiles and the...
No, that was one of the things that made me freak out possibly more than I would have, because I was just reading a New York Times article about these parents who got a call for their son, who was American, their son who had been killed. And I was like, fuck.
Right.
Yeah. You totally went there in your head.
Oh, yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah, he's going to run with the bulls,
Right.
I'm like, no.
And let's add bulls to the mix.
Yeah.
He's probably going to ride his scooter with the bulls, right? Not running, but
That's the
scootering.
thing now. Scootering with the bulls.
He'll start it. He should start it.
I was reading a thing about how that happened. They said that, it's nothing to do with a stampede or anything. It's when you have a tightly packed group of people and people on the edges start to move, it sends ripples into the middle that become magnified as they go toward the center.
I was going to say it's physics, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's physics.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be out of control or anything. It's just people standing there and enough people try to push their way in, and then you literally...
So it's like a friction kind of thing?
It's like a wave, right? A sine wave or something.
Yeah. I was in a crowd once where I got literally lifted off my feet and couldn't move, and was starting to feel like...
Where were you? I know it wasn't a concert.
Watkins Glen at the Grand Prix. I, at that point, decided I really have to find my way out of this because it was completely out of control, and I could...
You felt it. You could feel that.
Yeah, I could feel...
It was out of control.
It was out of control, and people were just pushing, and then when you can't even get your feet down to move...
Wow.
I could understand, what happened there, but it's a strange physical phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
So between that and the missile barrages going back and forth, I thought Grace would be freaking out.
Yeah, right. Missiles. Well, that's one of the things you have to worry about with your college student.
Right.
Missiles, Holy
Of course,
shit.
That could be a problem for us, too.
Yes, that's true. How did you get out of that crowd, Wally?
I just, finally got the feet down and just kind of ease your way out toward the edge and just keep working past people. But it was crazy. I never experienced anything like that before or since.
Yeah, I don't like crowds at all in general.
Me too.
I really stay, not because of that, just because I hate that. I don't like it, weaving back and forth.
I hate too many people in any situation, waiting in line or even in the grocery store.
Yeah. Well, that is a tough thing with like different cultures, right? I mean, the personal space is different. Like when you go into Chinatown in any city, definitely there's that personal space thing where it's different, and in Spain it's different too. I felt it, it's just there's less personal space, no one cares about it except for the people who are used to a lot of personal space,
When I go down into the city and I'm, in a certain part of Manhattan and everyone's going to work and stores and stuff, and you're literally weaving in and out on the sidewalk, and it's just people coming at you.
Yeah.
And I think, I really want to go home. I mean, I love it, but I need to be like a different part of town where there's just a lot fewer people.
Right.
I don't get a charge out of that anymore.
Well, should we do a kicker? Or my phone is still on. What's the kicker?
We didn't get a kicker.
Next week, more death.
I wish we could take phone calls from our listener. Boy, think of the technical problems we'd have then.